record, and yeah, it's recording. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tlhalosement. What did I say? Let me start over. What did I say? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Bitumelo Mamadi Mamarope, and welcome to Tlhalosement Career Conversations. We are here with Dan Matapola, the man himself, Arike, the master property investor. We Peter Yalo, not me, and he's not lying, actually. We want to balance today. We want to understand where is the missing link between the money and the education, because we are graduating year in, year out, but we are not seeing the results we are hoping for. So today we are discussing education and economics. So before we go in, let the man introduce himself. Mr. Daniel Matapola, over to you.
Hello, everybody. This is Dan Matapola. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Dan Matapola. So I'm a scientist by profession, and I'm in the space industry. So I'm the space scientist. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm an investor in property. But most importantly, I'm investing in myself. This is one thing that I do more than any other. And the return on investment is infinite. That's why I confidently call myself the African billionaire who changed the world by changing himself.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dan, for that introduction. On today's topic, let's now dig in. Before we dig in that much, I would like you to paint just paint a picture of our current economic profiling, with the great emphasis on academia, as academics, people who are in the academic space. Just paint that picture of what's actually happening.
Academia prepares us for the world of work, and we acquire knowledge in the various fields that we need according to the setup that is in academia. And so we come out looking for one thing. And if we don't find that one thing at the exit point, we are considered failures. And when we find it, we are considered somewhat successful. It's called a job. It's where you trade your time for money and skills, of course. You don't just trade your time. So you're bringing qualifications that the company that employs you requires to create value on their platform and to exchange that value in the open marketplace. But then again, you become dependent on this job being available because your entire education has been on the promise that when you are educated and you have a certificate to prove it, companies look favorably to you because they know that with that background, you are trainable to fit and play on their industries. And money that we earn that way is money that comes once a month. It's money that is limited. It's money in a company, in a corporate setting, you are given restrictions. This is the job description. This is the framework within which you will operate. If you are not the CEO, you are not the highest paid in the job. So you take what you take. And if you are an African child, you probably don't come from a rosy place. And your family would have sacrificed a lot to get you through school on the promise that you will be the goose that lays the golden eggs, and hopefully you will take the family, the bigger family, out of poverty and bring them prosperity. So this is what we do, and yeah.
No, it's fine. You can go on, go on, go on. I wanted to ask you another question, but I wanted to finish first.
Yeah, so if this is all we do, then we will never come out of our poverty that may be caused by other variables that may be historical in nature. What we need to do is recognize that money that we earn this way is very weak and it's very limited. There is a man who wrote a book that I credit as the book that has changed my life. That man's book said to me several things, but I will relate the things that really changed my thinking, because the greatest discovery of our generation is this idea that you can change your life by merely changing your thinking. So Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad challenged me to think differently. It told me things. In fact, I was intrigued by the title, which said, "What the rich teach their children about money that the poor and the middle class do not." And I thought to myself, hang on 1 minute. This intrigues me. Yeah,
you know, talking of you being intrigued and all that, now it takes me back to this question of saying, why is it that most educated people like they fall within the low income bracket? Because I mean, you just mentioned that the rich tell their kids something about money, which we, the educated, the others, the poor, don't talk about. So I'm actually there. Like, why is it that we are within the low income bracket?
some of it is historical, Buitumelo. Some of it is historical. We are conditioned to accept a certain standard of living as normal. So, and when we dream to just get a little bit higher than the norm. And when a guy like me comes up and says, "I am the African billionaire who changed the world by changing himself," that is foreign. That is something that challenges the status quo. And for many people, they have to find fault with this kind of dreaming, because it is unusual for an African child to dream of billions. If you dream of a million, it is very acceptable. Yeah, one day you can be a millionaire. When you say billion, it's like saying to slaves, "We can take you to the promised land." It is unusual. So the historical perspective tells us that we have been conditioned by history to be the low class. We didn't have much. We lived under an oppressive system. And now when we are out of that system, we still have the thinking of the old system. It's very, very strong, to a point where you still hear people saying things were better back then. At least we had jobs.
Yeah.
Now look at you young people. You have your freedom, but look at you, you are suffering. We need a transition in our thinking, and we need to embrace such ideas as has been shared by Robert Kiyosaki and many other authors in their books, that tell us that we must think like, you see, we are conditioned to be an employee who works for money, and we are conditioned to be loyal to our employers and stay the course. I mean, many people retire at age 60, 65, and they have no money at the end of these 40 years. What is wrong with this picture? And we need to interrogate this, because it has been going on for a long, long time. It's not just here in Africa. It's all over the world. Remember that 96% of the world's population earns its money this way, trading time for money. And they would have come through education. And what we mean by that, we mean the academic training. And education has no training on money, how to earn it, how to keep it, how to invest it, other than to give it to someone hoping that they know what they are doing.
So, talking of what you've been talking about and knowing that, when you invest, it's a risk, and knowing that we know that the school system does not teach us about money. The school system does not prepare us for the economics, of us thriving in this world. We know that. But now the question is, why are we still conformed to the norm of gathering more knowledge, like somebody would just go through scholarship in a way that, okay, I'm the victim. I'm one of those people who just went through scholarship up to PhD or even be a professor, and not think of ways in which you can actually take that knowledge, package it to the way you would want to package it, and create value in form of wealth for yourself. Why is it that we know, but we're still not doing what we know we should be doing? Where is the missing link there between the knowing and the doing?
To know something, it's one part. Knowing is a conscious mind activity. You have intellectual comprehension of this thing. So you relate to it. The change happens when you internalize that knowledge into that part of your mind that controls your behavior, your actions. It's called your subconscious mind. That is where the doing is. And we know that feeling precedes all doing. We don't do unless we first feel. We don't feel unless we first think. So thinking is a conscious mind activity. It's an intellectual activity. I want to be rich. But there are programs in my subconscious mind that are not in harmony with that thinking. So the conscious mind is in the X-type frequency of vibration. The subconscious mind is in a Y-type frequency of vibration. Then you have a human being who is at war with him or herself, because the two parts of the mind need to work in harmony. But you are conflicted because there are ideas that have been planted in your subconscious mind that may have taken place at a time you were too young to even think of defending or filtering these ideas out. So they sit there, they control the status quo. Boitumelo, if you grow up in an environment, you are surrounded by poverty. Poverty consciousness comes into your subconscious mind unconsciously. So to you, you are not doing anything wrong. You are doing what you grew up seeing people do. But whether or not this thing serves you, because truly speaking, there is no result that is good. There is no result that is bad. There's just results that serve or do not serve us. Nobody wants to be broke. Nobody wants to be without money to meet the needs of their lives. But many people find themselves in that position and don't know how to change it. They change jobs and say, I don't want to work for this employer anymore. I apply for a job that pays better somewhere else. And they go there and they still find themselves in the same sticky situation because What they have not changed is the programming that is in the subconscious mind. This is an invisible cancer that is killing our young potential. Until we deal with that invisible cause. You see, a human being has got two images. One is the image that you see dressed in a tie and a jacket. That is a physical image of myself. Remember, I'm a triple-faceted being. I am primarily spirit. I live in a temple called the body, whose reflection you see in the mirror. Then I have a mind, a marvelous creative tool that gives me the godlike ability to effect change on my conditions, circumstance, and environment. The mind has got two parts, conscious, subconscious. The self-image that is invisible to the eye and the five senses cannot pick it up. It resides, it's got permanent residence in the subconscious mind. It governs your life. Your subconscious mind runs more than 95% of your mental life. And you are who you think. When they say, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The early Greeks referred to the subconscious mind as the heart. It is the seat of all emotions. It is the seat of all habits. If you don't change the subconscious programming, everything else you are doing, you are just shoveling the decks of a Titanic. It is going to hit the iceberg and it is going to sink.
Yeah, you've said it all. Like, that's a mouthful. You know, after saying that, now I'm thinking, because now you mentioned the surroundings, you mentioned the environment which makes us, which is very true. So how can we, you know, rewrite the whole story? How can we reprogram? Because that's programming. How can we reprogram our stories now? You know, to say that we want to tell a different story. We want to give hope. We want to make this positive, because now it's negative and it's affecting us in a negative way because it's negative anyway. So how can we try to make it positive for ourselves as an African nation to say, yes, we live with poverty, but can we look at the other side of the mirror, you know, the positive side of the mirror? How can we do that? Starting from the households, because on our previous conversations, we mentioned that we should not, you know, sideline all the learnings to the teachers, because learning and teaching starts at home. So I want us to reroute it from home and take it to school, academia, up there, but starting with our African households to say, how do we rewrite our own story and make it positive?
If you and I could fly into the African household now, as you and I are talking, we are going to find Africans involved in the very things that keep Africans in these pathways, on this trajectory of losing. Time is fair. The rich man and the poor man have exactly the same amount of it. How we spend it is in our control. But of course, we are socialized to believe that certain things are normal. What you and I are doing right now with Tumelo, it's abnormal. Normal people don't do this, okay? Normal people have got comfortable couches and they lose themselves in someone else's life or idea of life. Soapies, you know, some are upset that Kaizer Chiefs was bumped off from position 1, and some are not even talking to their spouses now because Chiefs has lost. So we have, you know what our greatest power is as humans? Our greatest power is our ability to choose. There are many of us need to do the uncomfortable things, including dumping our friends. You see, we have a need to belong. It's a very strong need. And there are comfort zones in our lives. We are comfortable in certain settings. And we hang around people who share similar sentiments. One of the best things I have done to escape poverty, and I didn't realize it at the time, there is something called geography. Geography, I grew up in Limpopo. First 23 years of my life, I spent them in the province of Limpopo. So it was almost, we knew that many Limpopoans, when they graduate from university, they go to the city of gold. That's what happens. We all knew that, yeah, I would probably end up, working with the big science corporations because we are science graduates. One of the best things that have happened to me was that opportunity in the Western Cape at age 24 when I went to Stellenbosch to study satellite engineering. And I found myself living on beachfront, surrounded by people who speak isiXhosa, Afrikaans, English, finding myself speaking more English than my Sepedi language that I'm used to, okay? That was the first paradigm shift. The second paradigm shift was the sudden emotional shock. And basically, the loss of my parents, it created a set of conditions where I start questioning things I have never had to question before. Despite being a science graduate, and science graduates, science students are encouraged to question everything, the very fundamentals upon which your theory and your hypothesis is relying. Question whether its foundations are strong and scientifically sound. So when I started to question, now without parents, now without my usual support system, I am a ready student because I am knocking, I am seeking, I am asking. And the right teachers started showing up. Robert Kiyosaki showed up with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he now took the questions I had and he says, in the question lies the answer. The rich don't work for money. Your house is not an asset. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, whether you work or not. Unfortunately, a job only puts money in your pocket when you work. When you stop working, the money stops coming. That's where I was. My financial statement was job, income statement, first line item, income tax, and then standard of living expenses. And because you are forced to invest in your pension by law, you don't have a choice as an employee. You have to, because the government wants to relieve itself of the need to look after you when you are old. And that is fair. However, the African household of the graduate has no assets at all, because graduates have never been taught how to become the employers of money. We were taught how to become the employees, meaning the slaves of money. So money becomes the master, we are the slave. When in actual fact, it should be the other way. We are the masters. Money is the slave working very hard for us. That is the missing link that education doesn't have, doesn't address, and doesn't even have an intention to. Good luck to anybody who tries. Robert Kiyosaki has tried since 1997. It's still, the education system says, shut up. We know what we are doing, and what we are doing has worked. Yes, it works for those factories, those industrialists who need slaves to come and climb their corporate ladder, man-made corporate ladders. But it doesn't help beings of infinite worth to realize their true potential, because it is conditional. It is education that doesn't even deal with the core business of education, the training of the mind to think. The average student who comes out of academia doesn't understand. I said, from Napoleon Hill, an educated person is not necessarily one with an abundance of general or specialized knowledge, but one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they can go out and get whatever they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others.